We all know what this is about. They're afraid that they're going to lose the abortion vote, and they're going to do whatever is possible, which is amazing to me. They're fighting feverishly for the right to kill babies. And, God said they're going to call good evil and evil good in the last days. And I mean, my gosh, this is scary stuff.
Hey friends, thanks so much for tuning in. It's wonderful to have you back. I really do appreciate it. And thanks for checking us out for Real News 24/7 at SGTreport.com. A special shout out to my contributor, Matt, who does a fantastic job day in and day out. There's so much happening, guys. It's impossible to keep up on everything. But the reason you come to us is because you know that the Mockingbird mainstream media does nothing but lie and misrepresent all day, every day. We stand in opposition to that at SGTreport.com. I'm glad to have back on the line Bob Kudla. He is the founder of Trade Genius. You know, you and I have interesting conversations, Bob, and I want to talk to you today about the Brett Kavanaugh versus the California psychology professor Christina Blasey Ford testimony. I'm telling you, this is black and white. This is so clear to me, and I have never in my life seen more powerful testimony than what we saw yesterday from Brett Kavanaugh. Powerful, righteous indignation and moral outrage from a man who is very clearly falsely accused. I've never seen more credible testimony. Have you?
No, I have not. And they're screwing around with one of the smartest guys in the world. And if they can impugn a man of this kind of integrity with this long of a track record and force him out of government service, then we better start praying for our country, because I think we've lost it.
Well, that's 100% right. And, I want to play a clip for you here from Lindsey Graham in just 1 second. But before we do that, why don't you just give people a little background about yourself and Trade Genius? Explain to people how you make them money with Trade Genius.
Yeah, so at Trade Genius, me personally, I've been trading since 1991. I've had a trading service since 2011. And the reason why people use us is because we really help people make money nearly every day in the market. And what we've done is we've taken the emotions out. We apply rigorous mathematical algorithms that look for buying pressure and selling pressure. And then what we do for people is that we provide them with those signals, either via text message, or they can get alerts from us via email so they can act upon them. And we trade stocks, binary option, cryptocurrencies, and we do very, very well. And so we've been trading Bitcoin here. Everybody's saying, hey, Bitcoin's dead. We've been making a lot of money trading Bitcoin this year. And what we do is we just simply look for the places to get long and get short. And in fact, Bitcoin was down at 6,300. Everybody said it's going to crash. We said buy, and it shot up to 6,750. And so that's what we do. We help people make money, and it's tradelikeagenius.com. And Sean, what we do for your listeners is they just put in the promo code Sean45. Anything that's in our store that's not a bundle or consulting, they get 45% off if they go ahead and purchase before Sunday evening. And if they buy a bundle, we've already went ahead and discounted those bundles by 60% off for your listeners. So they can learn how to trade stocks, cryptocurrencies, binary options, or if they want consulting, or if they want to get training, we can help in that entire area. And we do quite well, and we make people money nearly every day in the market.
All right, Bob, we'll put the link for you below this video. Guys, now here's what I want to do. I want to talk about this incredible testimony from Brett Kavanaugh. Can you imagine if you were falsely accused of something you know in your heart and soul and in your memory you never did, and the accusation is 37 years old. The woman has no corroborating evidence. She can't remember where this supposed assault took place. She can't name the house in which it took place. And even in her own testimony yesterday, she couldn't even remember who paid for her polygraph test. So
or her legal bills.
It's absolutely outrageous, and it's why thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor is one of the 10 commandments, because that's all that's going on here. They're trying to destroy a man, his reputation, his family, and his career on unfounded and I believe 100% false allegations. I want to play this clip for you from Senator Lindsey Graham. Listen to this.
Did you meet with Senator Dianne Feinstein on August 20th?
I did meet with Senator Feinstein.
Did you know that her staff had already recommended a lawyer to Dr. Ford?
I did not know that.
Did you know that her and her staff had this allegations for over 20 days?
I did not know that at the time.
If you wanted an FBI investigation, you could have come to us. What you want to do is destroy this guy's life, hold this seat open, and hope you win in 2020. You've said that, not me. You've got nothing to apologize for. When you see Sotomayor and Kagan, tell them that Lindsay said hello, because I voted for them. I would never do to them what you've done to this guy. This is the most unethical sham since I've been in politics. And if you really wanted to know the truth, you sure as hell wouldn't have done what you've done to this guy. Are you a gang rapist?
No.
I cannot imagine what you and your family have gone through. Boy, y'all want power. God, I hope you never get it. I hope the American people can see through this sham.
The Democrats have been lying in wait, and they used this false allegation to try to destroy this man. And Kavanaugh said in his opening statement, which I think is one of the most powerful pieces of testimony I've ever heard in my life, he said, "False last-minute smears designed to drive me out of the process, all nonsense. This has destroyed my family and good name. I will not be intimidated into withdrawing," end quote. And that's just a small portion of the opening. Everybody's got to hear that opening testimony. Did you hear it yourself?
Yeah, I watched the whole thing. I was moved by it. In fact, it moved me to tears a couple times when he broke down, when he talked about his daughter praying for the woman, and just show them. I think the Democrats have may have screwed the pooch here a little bit, because they're basically maligning every Democrat. Because look, we all know what this is about. He's a Catholic, and he's probably on the side of life, and they're afraid that they're going to lose the abortion vote, and they're going to do whatever is possible, which is amazing to me. They're fighting feverishly for the right to kill babies, and it just boggles my mind. And basically what they're saying is that we think your belief system is evil. And what God said they're going to call good evil and evil good in the last days. And I mean, my gosh, this is just it's just amazing to me. He called the last one. He goes, that's an absolute farce. He goes, where did that come from? He goes, they had me showing up in Rhode Island and in Colorado, and I'm leading gangs and doing gang rapes. And he goes, this is just out of control. And he's right. If these people get away with it, Sean, this is scary stuff.
Well, it's scary stuff because it means that anybody who is ever nominated for anything can be destroyed with false allegations that are unprovable from 37 years ago. This cannot be allowed to stand. It certainly would not pass muster to even get into a court of law. It doesn't pass the smell test, Bob, in any way, shape, or form.
That's not their purpose. Their purpose is to destroy him. I work for corporate America, and what we did was, and I was a manager, and obviously I'm male, and you could not be in a room or attend an event or travel with a single female. And in fact, our offices were all made of glass because of just the hypersensitive nature of an accusation. Once you're accused, you can't prove the negative, and that's what they're trying to do here. They're just saying, hey, I can accuse you and I can ruin your life, and hopefully I'll get you to withdraw, because this is a lot more than about nominating for the Supreme Court or anything else for that matter, Sean. It's about you and I can be accused at any time by anyone, blackmail, or just get us out of the way, or if they don't like what we're doing and they want to move us out. This happens quite a bit, and if this becomes the litmus test, then we're going to go into anarchy. And if we're going to go into anarchy right at the same time the economy starts to roll over, it's going to be some really interesting times. And I'm an optimist, but just like Judge Kavanaugh said, he goes, I'm on the sunrise side of the mountain. He goes, but I'm telling you, it's sure making me question myself, and I feel the same way.
Well, I think what this has done is it's removed any last shred of credibility that the fanatic far left had left. It's destroyed what little credibility in the minds of the American people that the people on the left have. Feinstein, Cory Booker, they all look like fanatic, demonic liars. Because here's the thing. even if Brett Kavanaugh had done something even remotely similar to what he's accused of at the age of 17, when this girl was 15, it would have all been sealed anyway because he was a minor. And she never filed a police report and evidently hasn't really brought this to light for 36, 37 years until what? The night before the confirmation vote. That's when this all comes out. I mean, it's an absolute obvious political hit job, and it just shows how morally bankrupt the left is.
Well, I mean, he said when he was in the Bush White House, he was on the Ken Starr team during the Clinton investigation. He said people were giving out bounties of $1 million to find out sexual improprieties from anybody on that staff, which he was one of. He said 2 people got nicked by that reward system, he said, but nobody ever could find anything on me. And he goes, not like they didn't try. They scrubbed us from birth to present. So we all know this is a lie. I just hope that really, it comes down to it's really Collins, Murkowski, and Flake. I mean, really 3 people representing 2 of the most unpopulated states in the country, and a guy who's leaving the Senate is going to determine this guy's fate and his life, which is pretty darn scary if you ask me.
Well, I'm glad we were able to talk about this. I just wanted to bring it up because I think it was, again, people should watch the full testimony, the opening statement from Brett Kavanaugh, because it is one of the most powerful I've ever heard. And if you had any doubt that this guy was not telling the truth and that he didn't do what he's accused of doing, just watch the opening statement that he made, folks, because that is exactly the statement I would make if I were falsely accused. It's exactly what you want to hear from somebody who has righteous indignation and moral outrage because he is falsely accused. He knows he's innocent, and that's exactly the anger you would see from somebody who feels so cheated and unfairly treated by a clearly corrupt process. I just thought it was wonderful and powerful, and it gave me goosebumps as I watched it. So I want to ask you something else here. We know that the mainstream media only lies to us. CNN is, I think, the single best example of that. Did you hear any of President Trump's address at the United Nations the other day? He delivered on exactly what we'd want him to say to the United Nations folks, and CNN maligned him, saying he got laughed at and he was a laughingstock. But they didn't concentrate on any of the wonderful things he said. Did you see it?
Yeah, I watched the entire speech, and then I watched his press conference too. I thought it was fantastic. He's putting a marker down, and he's basically saying the Obama doctrine is dead. And this is the Trump doctrine. And in fact, some of that laughter was, with the Germans was kind of nervous laughter. They know, he just calls it out. He said, look, you guys are going to be a slave to Russia. I hope you're comfortable with that. I forget the first one. It was just kind of a funny thing. And everybody laughed, and he laughed too. And they moved on. But those are the only 2 things that I saw until the very end. Somebody said something funny, and everybody laughed along those lines. But he was really clear. He put the markers out. He basically was telling China, we're the strongest military in the world. We're the strongest economy in the world. We have the best system in the world, and we're not putting up with it. And he told OPEC, hey, we're defending you for free, and you're raping us on oil prices. He told Russia, hey, get out of our sphere of influence. And he told the Europeans, buck up. I mean, it was a beautiful thing. And I loved it. I'm a fan of just straight talk, and he delivers it beautifully.
Yeah, Bob, here's that part where CNN tried to make him look like a fool. I'll play the part about him saying that he's accomplished more than any other president. Here's the clip.
President Trump kicking off his address to world leaders in much the same way he kicks off his campaign rallies, touting his accomplishments, but wait for the reaction.
My administration has accomplished more than almost any administration in the history of our country. America's so true. Didn't expect that reaction, but that's okay.
Didn't expect that reaction, maybe not, but it was the reaction, and it did not just stay inside that room. I'm going to show you the headlines from around the world in just the past few hours, from Russia to Canada to England and Spain, all noting that world leaders laughed at President Trump.
the point I want to make right there too is you hear the applause. They're not laughing at him. They were sort of laughing with him. He was being self-deprecating, but CNN led with this idea that, oh, the whole world now sees what a laughingstock he is, and he was a laughingstock at the UN. And they completely omitted the part where he talked about we will never, ever let our sovereignty be taken away by unelected bureaucrats. And it's just simply because CNN does nothing all day but lie, Bob, 24/7. It's the anti-Trump news network.
Well, yeah, I mean, look, that's their only niche left. I mean, and they're slowly going in the tank. I noticed lately, though, that Jack Tepper, I think it's Tepper or Tapper, I forget which it is.
Yeah, Jake Tapper.
Jake Tapper, yeah. So I noticed he's been sliding over a little bit more onto the Trump train, probably because he probably fears for his job, or he might be angling for a job over at Fox. But yeah, I don't even pay attention to that. I mean, they get 1 million views a day. You do better than them, Sean. And so, I just don't give them any credence. It's really, I think the noise is just drowned out. And I think people just pass the common sense test on this stuff. Look, everybody knows Trump's an entertainer. And when he gets on the big stage, he makes these kind of comments, and, it's basically pearls of truth hidden inside, what I would call bombastic speech. And then he lets people know, like with the sovereignty thing, hey, what he's really feeling. And I love it. It's a breath of fresh air to me. And, more power to him.
Well, and again, on the clip here that I'm playing too, it says, this is from NBC News, President Trump puts world leaders on notice, slams globalism in UN address. See, and that's the key, isn't it? Because Hillary was an avowed globalist, just like John McCain. From two different sides of the aisle, supposedly, Republican, Democrat, McCain, Clinton, both Rothschild puppets and both avowed globalists, which this president is not. And that's what was so important about his UN speech, which CNN completely ignored. They completely ignored the fact that he stood in front of the UN and slammed globalism and globalist policies and said, the United States will not take part. I'll tell you, Bob, we live in very strange times when there can even be a network like CNN that's allowed to broadcast the way they do. I mean, just lies and misrepresentations all day, every day. All right. Well, your thoughts on that, and then we'll move on.
Yeah, I mean, look, really the bottom line here, Sean, is that there's two worldviews, right? The left knows that what they propose is not popular, and it's really not designed for the benefit of the people. So the only way in which they can get their agenda pushed through is, number one, lie about it before they get elected, and then use bureaucracy and the judiciary. And in the case of like the UN or some of these other NGOs, create treaties that nation states can't fight. And that's the left's, if they could get unelected people in charge of our life, like they did in Europe, and they could make that worldwide, then, then it's hell for most people, but great for the people in charge. And Trump is leading a counter revolution, if you will, of nation states that says local sovereignty is the right way to go for people's wealth and well-being, and be able to live life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. So, in the end, the left always loses. But when the left loses, if they're in charge, a lot of people die. So I'm praying that Trump is able to lead this revolution successfully, that we can bust these people back down into irrelevance before they can really take charge. I can't even imagine my life if Cory Booker and people like him had total control of our life.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. And their policies are very anti-human at this point. That's the bottom line. Hey, I wanted to ask you this. There's a kind of a shocking headline here from my buddy over at SGTreplan.com. Debt threat rises. The government will soon spend more on interest payments than on the military. The government is about to be in a disastrous situation, writes Mac. By the year 2023, interest payments on the national debt could surpass the entire budget for the Department of Defense, according to the New York Times. Look, Bob, I've said for a long time here, our cup is half full because the Wicked Witch isn't in the White House, but this spending is out of control. It seems not to matter who's in the White House. How does this end, and how serious a problem is this?
Well, it's a serious problem because, number one, is that people are getting older, so the entitlement spending is going to keep rising, number one. And number two is that I think Trump preempted, in case of a loss in the midterms, the defense budget. So he really ratcheted it up in case he lost power and they bring it back down. So they'll be forced to, as interest rates rise, Sean, to scale back the spending, if you will. But that's why he's doing what he's doing with China. He's trying to get growth, and he's trying to get it out of the hide of the mercantilists, the Germans and the Chinese and the Mexicans and the Koreans and the Japanese. These are the people who are export-oriented, and they use trade practices to benefit their own people, not even their own people, their own elites, at the expense of our people. And so he's trying to get growth by bringing most of that stuff back into the country. Now, a lot of the world's going to be in big trouble because their currencies are collapsing, Sean, and they don't have a reserve currency, nor can they create enough energy for themselves or food for themselves. We're one of the few countries in the world that can absorb an environment where the debt gets out of control because we could feed ourselves, and we're the world's largest producer of energy. So I think it'll be problematic for us, but it'll be disastrous for the rest of the world. And that's why at Trade Genius, we talk about you got to start getting into commodities. You got to get into gold miners, silver miners, uranium miners, lithium miners, and things that have tangible value, which will rise and are not interest rate dependent like real estate is. And in that way, and food as well. And so you can then afford to take care of your family if inflation starts getting out of control. But make no mistake, the rest of the world's in big trouble. That's why our dollar's been going up. If you look around, Turkey, Argentina, even India are having some really big problems because they have to import things and they've overspent and their currencies are weakening, which makes it almost impossible for them to import enough things to keep their standard of living intact. So, yeah, it's something to keep an eye on, and something we'll definitely be talking about in the future, because going into the next 2 years, it's only going to get worse.
Well, I want to read a little bit more from this article here for you, because I was watching a video the other day from my friend Chris Dwayne, who reminded his audience that I think it was back in 1980, as recently as 81, Bob, the total national debt was only $1 trillion. So let me read this to you. While many are worried about the crumbling infrastructure in the United States, others say it'll be more difficult to make emergency moves like pulling the economy out of future recessions, which is strange because the government causes recessions and doesn't fix them. They simply put Band-Aids on gaping wounds. This mentality that the government will save the people when they are $21 trillion in debt is a delusional one, other economic experts have said. Now listen to this. In about 5 years, more than $900 billion in interest payments will be due annually, easily outpacing spending on several other socialist programs. $900 billion a year in interest payments, Bob. It wasn't that long ago that would have paid off the whole national debt back in 1980, 1981. So let me ask you this. We've heard many esteemed guests like John Williams, the economist who I've spoken to, say that hyperinflation of the dollar will come. He thought it was going to happen in 2015, 2016, 2017. I asked you this last time. What does your crystal ball say about the future of the dollar at this point?
Dollar's going to be the last currency standing. And then I think what's going to happen is that they'll reprice gold and basically just wipe the debt out on a reprice of the price of gold. That's why I tell people you need to make sure that you have, gold, silver, and the miners, because one day we're going to wake up and they're going to say, well, gold is not $1,200 anymore. Now gold is $17,000. And oh, by the way, we're then going to pay the debt off with our gold. And I think that's what's happening. And I think they allowed the Chinese to get in position as well. And I think this is an international thing. I think they all know they're all printing like they're going out of style, Sean. And I think that's what's going to be the jubilee that we're going to see. But, I'm not sure a lot of people think, because I think they're hoping that America takes a step, gets to get beat down a little bit. But when you can control your own destiny, in terms of imports and exports, your currency is in good shape. If tomorrow everybody in the world says, we're not going to import to you unless you do X, Y, and Z, we can literally say, okay, we don't need your imports. And because we can grow our own food, and we can create our own energy. Now, it might be inconvenient for us, but it's not going to be devastating for us. Very few countries around the world can actually say that. In fact, probably only 2 or 3, one of them being Australia and the other one being Argentina, but Argentina is a political mess. But, that's why I don't worry about the dollar so much. And that's why everybody's been so wrong this year, too, about the dollar. I told people, look, dollar's still going to go higher. It doesn't mean gold and silver and the miners aren't going to go higher with it. But what currency are you going to go to, right? I mean, you're going to go to the yuan. It doesn't float. You're going to go to the euro. Europe's going to blow apart. What are you going to do? The yen? The Japanese have printed themselves into oblivion. So there's no England, there's no competitor to the dollar, and it's not going away. And so, and I think that's why Trump is doing what he's doing on the trade side. Look, he knows he has the bull by the horns here, and he's going to take advantage of it. Dollars is going to keep getting stronger. And the only thing it's going to get weaker against eventually is going to get weaker against gold and silver. And that's why I like it.
Yeah. Okay, me too. Let me ask you this then about DC in a panic. I think that it's really obvious now to anybody paying attention that the left in particular is in a panic, certainly as it relates to Kavanaugh's nomination and confirmation. But overall, the overarching theme that we've been reporting on lately is the panic of the deep state. People like Mueller, Brennan, Adam Schiff, Hillary Clinton. These people know the crimes that they've committed. And now they don't have the cover of Hillary Clinton sitting in the White House, stacking all of the departments that would shield them from prosecution. Your thoughts on arrests, perp walks, or just the overall panic in DC that these people really must be feeling now that the deck is no longer stacked?
Yeah, people always said, why is Trump so calm? I said, because he's read everything. So he knows what's going on. So, my hope is that he's biding his time and he's just going to start dropping out these unredacted reports, and then he's going to turn Jeff Sessions loose. But I have a conspiracy theory that probably be wrong, but it was kind of interesting for me. Hey, next week Congress goes out of session. He can fire whoever he wants to fire. He can bring in an acting that doesn't have to be confirmed. That acting can then do whatever he wants them to do. And by the time Congress comes back, he can have all the unredacted stuff out there. He can have indictments out there. He can have subpoenas out there. And he could turn this place into a panic before the election. And instead of them focusing on the midterms, they're going to be focusing on staying out of jail. Now, I don't know if that's a fantasy of mine, but it sure looks like a definitely it's possible for it to happen. But he has everything. And they definitely are in a panic. You saw Rosenstein and McCabe start shooting at each other. And so... And you notice he didn't fire Rosenstein, so there could be something in play here. Maybe he's going to turn him, and so we'll see. I'd like to see some more action, though, personally.
I asked my last guest, Bix Weir, for his top 5 perp walks that he'd like to see, and he really said it should be more like 500. So he didn't really specify. Can you give me your top 5 list of the people you would most, if you could only pick 5? Give me your top 5 list of those you'd most like to see arrested and perp walked.
Well, I think Brennan, number 1. I think Peter Strzok, number 2. I don't care if it's Comey, McCabe, or Rosenstein as number 3. I definitely need to see Hillary get indicted, and I'd like to see Adam Schiff get indicted.
I don't have a problem with your list at all. I would substitute one of them, though, for Barack Obama. Because all of this happened, remember, under Barack Obama's watch. All of the spying, all of this was approved. The FISA warrant, all of the spying on then candidate Trump was done under Barack Obama's watch. And he cannot be allowed to get away with this. One of the things that I thought was so powerful about Trump's inauguration speech was when he said, "We are not merely transferring power from one administration to another or from one political party to another. We're in the process of transferring the power back to the people." We've never heard that before, and we certainly wouldn't have heard it from Hillary Clinton. All we've ever heard from our past presidents, Bob, going back decades, is, yes, it looks like there were crimes committed by the previous administration, but we're not going to look backwards. We're going to look forward. That's what they all said. They all said it time and time again. There's a new sheriff in town. That's the good news.
Yeah, look, I mean, I think if you get those five fearing for their life. I think they'll throw Obama under the bus. So I'd like to see those guys cook on the stove for a while and then start giving up the ghost on Obama. And then that way it's not Trump's fault, it's these people. And so that's why I didn't include him on the list. But he definitely is pure evil. And I don't understand why George Soros gets to walk around freely. I mean,
Good point.
He's creating disasters for everybody.
Good point. George Soros absolutely should be on that top 5 list. I completely 100% agree. Hey, the way I think we should round out this interview here, Bob, is just to come full circle and mention Lindsey Graham. I started with a Lindsey Graham soundbite. I can't actually even believe that I would. I mean, it wasn't that many months ago where I really threw Lindsey Graham repeatedly in videos. I mentioned him as being one of the cabal criminals along with John McCain. They were as thick as thieves. Now John McCain's dead. Lindsey Graham gets the absolute stare down from Madison Kelly at McCain's funeral. And now he appears to just be, President Trump's biggest cheerleader, Kavanaugh's biggest cheerleader. He's really, really come full circle here and done an about face. And then, he was questioning Kavanaugh and he brought up the idea of military tribunals for traitors. I tell you, I think it's the single biggest piece of circumstantial evidence that there has been a big sea change in Washington, and that's Lindsey Graham's behavior lately.
Yeah, I was always a Lindsey Graham fan, so I was kind of shocked. I think he might have been put off by what happened to some of his closer colleagues by Trump in the election, and I think he had to warm up to Trump, and at the same time, I think a lot of people see what he's actually doing, and he's seeing what the enemies of our country are actually doing to him, and I think he's trying to do the right thing, and he's a very eloquent guy. I think he got a little ahead of himself and got a little heady with power, the Gang of Five. I can control the Senate, all that stuff, and I think he's probably come to the realization is that, hey, if we don't stand together, we're not going to be in power, and so I applaud him for changing his ways.
Well, I applaud Brett Kavanaugh, who even in his opening statement yesterday, Bob, said that he absolutely cherishes the Constitution. And that's all we want out of our leaders. That's all we want out of our Supreme Court justices. That's all we want in this country is people that will respect the rule of law and enforce and obey the Constitution in the Bill of Rights. That's all we've asked for as Americans. That's all we want. That's all we need.
Yeah, look, most people want to be left alone. And so I think people are seeing that the left won't leave us alone. You pick the subject and they're in our short. So I'm with you. I hope he has a good confirmation vote today and that he ends up on the Supreme Court. But if not, he acquitted himself well, in my view. And then Trump's he's gonna nominate a woman, and then he's still gonna get what he wants.
All right, Bob. Well, you know what? I appreciate your time. And as we part ways here, can you remind people about the website Trade Genius and tell people about that special code? You said there's a discount code?
Yes. So you can use the promo code either Sean45 or SGT45, and either one will work for your listeners. And that's for anything in the individual products that we have in the store. And then we already pre-discounted the bundles that you can take advantage of for stocks or binary options or cryptocurrency trading or even consulting or training. So take advantage of it. They're great deals. We've been helping people make a lot of money lately. The market is becoming a two-way market, which means that it's tremendous time to make a lot of money in the market, and we want to help you do so.
All right, very good. And guys, Sean is spelled S-E-A-N for those that don't know. Proud Irish name. All right, guys, Bob Kudla has been our guest. Bob, thanks so much for your time.
Sean, thanks for having me. Have a good one.
Yep, my pleasure. Thank you. And guys, thank you so much for tuning in. And for Real News 24/7, do visit us at SGTreport.com. Check us out at thelibertymill.com and a site where I handpick videos for you on a daily basis that I think you'll find very interesting and enlightening. Check us out at thephaser.com. Thanks for tuning in, guys. God bless. Bye-bye.
I would love to know what Uma was told to tell him, because they can't use the regular forms of communication anymore because everything is being listened to. So really, really exciting times in the battle between good guys and bad guys.